I would need some feedback from the audience. Just a quick little speech for everybody here. I wasn't going to do a speech because I try to just talk from my heart about why I started Bet on Her and the Bet on Her Summit and the podcast, but words are hard, so we're going to try to read this. Okay. Welcome to the first Bet on Her Summit. My name is Dana Drambarian, and I'm the founder of Buzzle Media and the Bet on Her initiative. I'm so thrilled to be joined by all of you here in the room, men and women. And sometimes, honestly, I have to pinch myself to believe that this is real life. I'm so honored to be here and introduce you to the Bet on Her Summit, a movement that I've dreamed about for a long time. What we're hoping to accomplish more than anything with our work here at Bet on Her is to foster a global community of women in sports. A community that can learn from its collective experiences, grow together through support of peers, and thrive in a world where women's sports, has an uphill battle facing at every turn. Let's make sure we put our phones on Do Not Disturb. I'm getting pinged right now. I'd like to take a moment to thank my partners in crime, Gina Urango and Kelly Reeves. Kelly's out there. I am truly indebted to these two amazing women. They believed in me before anyone else did. When the Bet on Her podcast was just a crazy idea and an image on an Instagram post, these two saw the vision and decided to join me in this wild ride. Together, we recorded over 20 episodes and have reached over 100,000 people in just half a year. This movement wouldn't have been possible without them, and I just want to give them a round of applause. Also, I want to thank and welcome Carly Kahn. She's right there back in the room. She is our newest member. She's also taken a leap of faith, just to join our scrappy team, so thank you. I want to take a moment to thank April Ross. She's our executive producer for the summit. Her leadership and willingness to lean into this movement has inspired all of us to rise to the challenge of creating this event. We are so humbled that she's chosen to be a part of this initiative. Please join me in giving her a round of applause. Thank you, April. Finally, I want to thank our partners that took a bet on us for this wild idea. Sometimes you need friends in your corner that are willing to take a bet on her, even when things are a little fuzzy. So I want to thank Amazi Foods superhero, Marina. Thank you. You guys should check her out. She's great. And Gatorade for taking a bet on us. We appreciate your support. And now that's enough of me. I want to welcome April and our guest panelists. I don't want to mess this up. It's the first name, you guys. I don't know why the first name. Phelan Fonoimoana. Fallon Fonoimoana. Molly Turner and Brooke Wyatt to the stage, and please join me in giving them a round of applause. Thank you, guys.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. This is really exciting, the first inaugural panel for Bet on Her. I'm honored to be the moderator. I'll offer a little bit of feedback from my own experiences as well, but I'm really going to count on these guys to share their stories. So like Dana said, we're here to be transparent about our stories, our journeys with this sensitive subject. And there's so much pressure today on female athletes especially to look a certain way. And this pressure comes from lots of different areas, but the media is one of them, puts a lot of pressure on us, unrealistic expectations. It comes from traditional ideas about what a woman should look like. It can come from coaches, it can come from parents even. And I think a lot of it comes from us not being super inclusive of each other. I think as we get older, more mature, we become more inclusive, but when we're younger and you experience someone excluding you or making a comment about your body, that can stick with you and kind of compound into your adult life. I know that happened to me the first time I was aware of my body was when one of my teammates, who was a friend, but we were doing conditioning, we had our shirts off just in our sports bras, and she pointed out how my stomach was bigger than everybody else's. And like, she didn't really mean anything bad by it. She was like shocked, that I didn't have a 6-pack. And it was totally fine, but it stuck with me. And that's the first time I was like, oh man, maybe I need to do something else to be a little bit more in shape and like everybody else. But we believe one way to lessen the stigma, lessen the effect of all this pressure is to come together like we are tonight and talk about it openly and candidly and just increase awareness, because awareness is the first step. It allows us to understand why we're feeling one way or another about our bodies, and share with each other and be able to adopt healthier lifestyles, healthier habits, healthier ways to think about things. And it just empowers us. And in certain situations, ask for professional help if we need it. So we're going to start the conversation tonight, by having the panelists share a little bit about their own journeys with body image. Molly and Fallon have very different journeys, just like all of us do. And Brooke is here as a professional nutritionist to keep us honest, make sure we're not giving any terrible advice to anybody.
That's in check.
Yeah. She's the police. And she's going to share her experience working with athletes through nutrition. So we're going to get started. I'm going to ask Molly, can you give us a little background and take us through the biggest challenge you've overcome as far as body image is concerned?
Yeah, I'm Molly. I have been healing from an eating disorder since, early college. And I don't say that in a proud way. It's not something I'm proud of, but it's something that I've been struggling with for, it feels like, most of my life. And since college, and kind of looking after all of my teammates, kind of similar, it was brought on to me oh, my body is different from others. And with beach volleyball, our bodies are on display. And so I fell into it pretty easy, which is unfortunate. But yeah, so I've been healing from an eating disorder since then. I have been getting professional help since I graduated college, and I realized it was something I couldn't handle on my own. And luckily my family and my amazing sister all were like, hey, we can't give you this. Reach out to someone. We can't keep, trying to give you professional advice. So I'm lucky to have them push me in that direction. And since then, and still to this day, I've been working with the same eating disorder therapist, and I love her. But I work weekly with her and a dietitian, and unfortunately, my journey hasn't ended yet, and I'm hoping it comes to an end at some point, but it's a daily struggle. But I guess I'm here because I just wanted to basically help educate and help everyone learn that although it's something that I struggle with, it gets really great some days, and some days I plateau, but it's something that I owe to myself to get through. And I'm excited for that day where I'm like, okay, this is it. I've gotten there. So that's pretty much why I'm here with all of these iconic legends. But so yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Well, we appreciate you being here and being willing to share your story. I think I would doubt it if anyone in this room doesn't know somebody who's had a similar journey to you. I know that through college, certain teammates have had issues, and so it's really important for you to share your story. And so thank you so much. Fallon, we all notice how confident you are and how much you own your body. Can you tell us about your journey and how you got to where you are now?
Hi guys, I'm Fallon. I was born and raised in Hermosa Beach, California. So obviously I stick out, from going to school to here, then I'm going to USC. Everything was very different for me because I grew up in a white town being how I look. And obviously, as a kid, it's really hard to figure out, like, why am I different? Okay, I'm different. It's like going through a cycle of just trying to figure out who you are. And I think that's why I had a tough exterior, because I just didn't want to, I'm tearing up now, but it was just trying to find an okay platform for me. And going to college, I had my best friend there, which probably made it pretty awesome, because I got confident, because why not have someone that loves you? And that's where it kind of flourished, where I was tough, but like I found a great spot for me where it just felt right. And obviously going through college, finding my body, actually figuring out that I was attractive, getting attention, like that was something that was a great thing, and also a dangerous spot to be in too, because going from Manhattan Beach to LA, it's absolutely different. And finding myself after that, I had a baby at 20, so obviously that's another thing that I had to go through, where having a belly to being a 20-year-old where you can snap back and finding yourself. I think the biggest part that I had to go through was my son, and my body was something where I kind of obsessed about it after having my son. And it got to a point where like Herbalife was huge, and like all of those things of having a diet was, I guess, a fad, if you will. But after that, I made it my point to be my biggest cheerleader. Eating, working out, I always felt like I had to do more than others, because there was always a target on my back. And I guess that's why now being 31, I am unapologetically me, because there is no one that can do what I do, look the way I do, sound the way I do, and give people who look like me any kind of confidence, because you don't see people who look like me on TV. And then that's just one of the things I had to deal with. And I love it, because I now can look at myself and be like, you know what? I am absolutely awesome. There's no one that I know that will reach out to other women who don't even look like me and tell you that you're beautiful. I will always build you up. I will always do that, because I didn't have that. So I think that's where I kind of get myself into I'm not going to cuss. I get myself into a great headspace where I want to be there for as many women as I can, because obviously when you don't have that, it's something that you take onto your heart.
That's amazing. Once you decided you wanted to be your biggest cheerleader, like how long did it take to make that switch? Was it just like one day and you're like, I'm going to talk to myself like I'm my best friend? Or walk us through that a little bit.
I mean, it's still a forever journey. You know, you have to be your biggest cheerleader in decisions you make daily. You have to be your biggest cheerleader in letting people go because they're not making you better. Maybe it's a friend that's not telling you, or telling you something that is negative, but you're kind of brushing it off, saying it's okay. Like, it's one of those things of each day I have to choose to wake up, be positive. Also, I just have to let things be, I use the word flow. I have to flow with things. And each day is a decision to, if I go on Instagram, I'm going to make sure every pregnant person I know, everyone who's going, like seriously, like I always make sure that I comment on them and making sure they know that they're beautiful, knowing that they're supported, know that they're loved. And that's how I am my cheerleader, because I do that in myself.
Yeah, no, I think there's a lesson there for all of us, and we shouldn't hold back our compliments. There's the psychological study that you need 10 compliments for one critique. And so we can all do better at supporting each other and lifting each other up. And you're the best role model for that. So
I hope so. I'm trying to get better.
No, you're the best. Okay. Thanks for sharing, Fallon. Brooke, what has your experience been like working with female athletes?
Yeah, great question. Hi, everyone. I'm Brooke. I'm a registered dietitian, and I work with USA Beach Volleyball. I've experience with other sports as well. My background is actually played soccer, so I didn't play volleyball. A little different. So though I can't relate exactly to their experiences, as a female athlete, of course, body image was something that played a role in my life as well. And it still does as a female. Like, it's really hard to say that it doesn't. Here we go. But yeah, so working with female athletes in general, it's been a really special experience, especially the beach volleyball community, just because I get to be a little bit more in tune with the emotional side versus male athletes. And I think in general, it takes time to create that relationship so that there is a safe space for females to open up about body image. So it's not necessarily something we talk about right off the bat. I think it has to be like rapport in a relationship for athletes to feel comfortable. And I totally understand that. And so in general, yeah, it's tough to talk about, but I think when athletes feel encouraged, like Molly was mentioning, to go speak to a professional, it's really great because they realize too, like, as a dietitian, I'm not here to be the food police or to judge you or to make you feel less than because of your food choices. Or if you do have body image struggles, like, that's totally okay, and I want to support that. So I think just making female athletes know that I'm here to support and not judge, and that's the biggest message that I've hoped I've conveyed in that space.
What do you see a difference in the way men come to you, male athletes come to you, and female athletes come to you, and maybe what they're asking for?
Yeah, I mean, completely different. Men want to build muscle. That's what we talk about. And women maybe are more particular about meal plans, you know, how many calories should I be eating, macros, really specific details. So though they might not be saying, you know, I want to be a certain weight, a lot of the questions might guide me to understand that they're looking to change body composition, and not necessarily by building muscle, but maybe losing weight overall.
Yeah. I always felt that was unfair. Like, guys are going around getting on the scale being like, oh man, I'm lighter than I want to be. And I wish I was, you know, heavier. And yeah, I feel like for females, it's always like the opposite, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Okay, you guys, thank you so much for sharing your stories. We're going to move on to kind of the effects of media and societal pressure as it has to do with body image. And so within this arena, there's traditional media, which does us obviously a huge disservice when it comes to promoting and focusing on a certain body type. We now know that everything is photoshopped, but if you don't, it is just such an easy way to compare yourself to those images and make yourself feel less than. And I think that's still a big issue, especially for younger women. Then we also have to deal with social media, which is even worse because, as we know, anyone can get on a keyboard and say anything about anyone. And then there's the Facetune apps, which allow people to modify their bodies, and it looks super realistic, and you don't know that. They can look totally different from what they actually look like in real life. And it's just a big concern about how it's affecting all of our mental health, but especially like high school and college age young women. And myself, like, I've been really affected by it too. I think going into Tokyo, I posted a photo on my social media, and here I am. I've won a silver medal and a bronze medal at the Olympics already, and I work my butt off and pride myself on how hard I work and doing everything I can to be the best competitor that I can be. And I get a lot of support on social media. I feel very fortunate. But I had one guy comment on a photo I posted and said, like, oh, well, if you want to win a gold medal, you're obviously going to have to lose some weight. And like, I let that comment affect me so much. And I'm like, you know what? He's right. Even though everybody else can tell me that I look great. And I, you know, talk about all this other stuff. It's like, okay, so I got to work out more. I got to restrict my eating more. And I felt myself getting really gnarly about it in a bad way. And luckily I recognized that at a certain point, because it's not sustainable for me and my body type. Like, I need to eat and I need to be fueled and just to feel good about myself. And I was like, you know what? Eventually I had to get to a point where I was like, F this guy, you know, like, I'm going to do me and work as hard as I can, and whatever my body ends up looking like that's gonna be good enough. But it took me a while to get there, all because of one freaking comment on social media. And I was established and like 35 years old at the time. Like, I feel it's embarrassing, like, admitting that, but it's true. So I want to go to Fallon, because I know you get comments about your body on social media. And I want to know, like, how it's affected you over the years. How have you learned to frame it so that it doesn't get to you in a negative way? Or how do you just deal with that?
There was a comment, oh my gosh, I think I was 13 years old. I don't know if you guys remember Volley Talk. Volley Talk was like huge during club. And I'm gonna bring you like from there to here, but Volley Talk, and I was 13, I was 6'2", and I was a baby, like literally a baby. Like, I don't even know what my body type was. I don't even remember that significant. I just remember what this person said. And they had said in the comment, like, oh, I watched her court and she looked like a linebacker. And I thought to myself, a linebacker? Like, what? Like, that is just so off the wall. I was 13. And going from that comment to going to now, and, you know, people obviously, for example, AVP will post me, I'll have a really great point. Support, fire, happy face, you're so great, go girl. And then there's, oh, you guys let cows on your, on your tour, or, oh, we don't really, resonate with training, or all of these things are said. Now, I'm really spiritual, and I always felt this. If I wasn't supposed to be there, I wouldn't be there. If I was not supposed to be on that court, if I wasn't supposed to play that well, I wouldn't be on that platform. I wouldn't be. That's just the experience that I had to go through, but I've gone through a lot of crappy moments to understand that about myself. And there was a part when it's really weird, my 30th birthday, I remember that comment popping up, and I laughed when I woke up because I had gone through so much of trying to build myself up and trying to remember all of the things that I loved about myself. And I started to laugh about it. And that was such a good turnover for me because, like, screw that guy. Like, he was probably in the middle of a snowstorm, twiddling his fingers, like, bored. And you had to comment about a 13-year-old, like, how miserable is your life? And I had to tell myself that because I have nothing to do, it's none of my business how you feel about me. And that's how I feel right now. How I present myself, how I make others feel, that's what I want to be. And people, I literally have to, like, sometimes delete comments because they're kind of, brutal. And I don't want, like, kids to see that because, I could care less, but it's more of what I want other girls who DM me and other girls who think or say that I'm their role model. I want them to feel good about themselves, and I could care less about how these other people who are twiddling their fingers say.
Yeah, that's brutal. But I think you make a good point. Like, you have to cultivate that solid knowledge that how you feel, you're in control of how you feel. It doesn't matter what anybody else says. And it's so hard to remember in the moment, but if you can come back to that, then nothing anybody says can get to you. I also love to picture, like you said, the guy in the snowstorm, but he also like never works out, exactly. Like got kicked off of his JV high school team and like thinks he can comment. Exactly. And so that's just how I picture all the trolls on social media.
Absolutely.
Okay, going to Molly. How do you feel traditional media's portrayal of the female body has affected you? And how do you overcome that?
Man, I think since I was younger, there's always athletes I look up to, but you always find yourself on these Instagram pages of girls that are not athletes.
Right?
Always.
Yeah.
They always
like,
come up on your For You page. I'm like,
it's like, because I wear a bikini and she wears a bikini, yeah. You think I want to see that?
Which is it's fine. They're gorgeous. But I would always find myself looking at their bodies and being like, why don't I look like that? And why can't I get to that? So, I tried and tried everything. And I just couldn't get there. And I'm like, what is wrong with me? I'm not doing this right. The diets aren't working. What is wrong? And so it led me into that way. But it's important for me when I started working with my therapist, she recommended doing an Instagram detox where I would go on and mute or completely block pages or Instagrams that would set me off, that, you know, I would compare myself to. And it was nothing against them, because I look at their Instagrams and they're not posting to make me feel bad. And it's not their fault that I feel bad about it. Like Fallon said, like, it's none of, like, for you, it's none of my business how you feel about my body. But for some reason, I was kind of like, okay, this girl, you know, I want to be her body type, and it's kind of triggering me a little bit, but I'm going to take a break. I'm just going to mute her. And it helped me so much. But media, it's hard. You see all these, like, what I eat in a day, and as an athlete, you look at them and you're like, why don't I eat, you know, as little as they do? And it's like, because half the time they're not athletes, and I think
You wouldn't
that's
get through one match if you ate what they ate.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I would panic. So I think that's the most important thing is knowing that half of the stuff that you see on social media, it can't really resonate with you as an athlete, which is hard.
Yeah, and I did that also, like, just kind of naturally. Every time I'd go to the airport, I'd pick up the tabloids, and it'd be, you know, first of all, these stories that you don't need to know about celebrities, but also just unrealistic body types, and you know, it just sucks you in to the wrong realm. Like, you shouldn't be focusing on those things. And now I try to beat the algorithm on social media. So, like, if, you know, these women who are obviously photoshopped and just almost look AI because they're, you know, so gorgeous, and maybe they are, but I know there's a lot of, like, photoshopping going on. I just swipe as fast as I can past them, so that, like, I'm telling the algorithm, like, I don't want to see that. I want to see strong, I want to support, you know, like, other female athletes.
Yeah.
I don't need to see the swimsuit models as much. So I think that's a good tool. But yeah, it's hard.
It is really hard.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's on TikTok. It's on every single social media that you can find. But it's important for me to know that when I go on, it's like I do have to swipe through those things, or yeah, it's like I'm not them, and that's okay.
Yeah. And I mean, we're adults, and I feel like I worry about the younger generation and just them fixating on those things. And I don't know if there's parental controls or anything that anybody can do. And I don't know. I just, like, my kid is not getting social media till they're
You say
25.
that now.
I
I
know.
have a 10-year-old. Good luck.
30.
Good luck.
Yeah. Oh man. Okay. This one is for Fallon or Molly or both. Do you guys feel you have to look a certain way to get the attention of sponsors and to kind of lock down endorsement deals? Do you think that plays a part? Like, do you think about that?
In the beginning of figuring out this sponsorship, endorsement, all that kind of stuff, obviously I was like, oh, I have to play with, like, makeup on and, like, do my hair cute, and, like, it's just, obviously it's just not me at all. So I tried it for probably one tournament, and I absolutely, like, melted off my makeup, and my hairspray, like, mixed with, it was awful experience for me to try to look cute. And then I got to a point where it was one of those things of, like, I think I wasn't myself, and I wasn't, like, screaming and yelling and, like, being as vibrant as I was, because I felt awful trying to be something I wasn't. And then one tournament, I was playing with Alexis Strange. We were playing in Austin, Texas. And if you've ever played in Austin, Texas, you cannot look cute. You literally are drenched in your own sweat for hours, because you just have to play in the qualifiers. So you're just one of those things. And I remember we played till, like, 9 p.m. and it was one of those, like, aha moments. We had finally qualified, and I was like, this is how I want to look. This is how I want to feel. I want people to know that, like, I'm going to be Sandy. I'm going to be gross. I'm going to be loud, but I'm going to be who I am. And that's when, that tournament is exactly when I got with Athletic Brewing. I went up to their tent, dirty and gross, like, just approaching them, because I probably was about to cramp, and I was like, I know a beer is going to help me. Can you give me a beer? It's just one of those things. Obviously, it's non-alcoholic. And it was such a great moment for me, because I was being who I was. Like, it was just like, oh, we're building a relationship just by talking. I know I need a beer. You guys are non-alcoholic. It's going to be a great relationship. And I want to say all of my sponsorships have been organic. All of them have felt really good. Like, there hasn't been well, there's one moment, but I'll tell that later. But all of these people and I crossed paths for a reason. And if there was an email that just didn't sit well, I just didn't respond, or I was just like, it's just not going to work for me. And there was one sponsor that wanted to have me straighten my hair and put like a lighter skin tone on me, even though I was already light. And then they told me I should braid my hair to look a little more black. And then it was one of those things of just like, no, I don't think I can do this. It was a great sponsorship. I would have been great money wise, but would it be who I am? Absolutely not. So I think for me, if you ever see my social media, I literally am myself. I am in the gym sweating. I'm gonna show you that I just went on that treadmill. I died, and it just works for me. And I think it feels good to show my followers that be who you are, sweat on the treadmill. If you have a pimple, who cares? Like, it's just one of those things that has worked for me.
Do you have anything to add?
I haven't had like a situation like that per se, but I mean, I think it's just like internal pressures that you want to look the perfect way, and you see all these ads and all the girls look perfect. And I've had a few photo shoots where they kind of encourage a smaller bathing suit, which is like not what I would want to do, but I think I've gotten lucky. I mean, you touched on it yesterday when we were just kind of talking about the whole situation. It's like, I would rather, get a sponsor from winning than getting a sponsor from looking sexy or hot or whatever. I would rather be the best.
Yeah. That's just, for me, I think I thought about it a lot when I first got out onto the beach. Like, look at these sponsors that her and her have. They're, petite and cute. And that's how I have to look if I want to get sponsors, and then it eventually dawned on me, like, you can either get sponsors from being good at what you do and mastering your craft, or you can try to fit this unrealistic body type and maybe get sponsors for the wrong reason, but those aren't going to be authentic and they're not going to stick with you long term. And it's way more in your control to work your butt off and see how good you can be and count on sponsors seeing you for that than it is to like try and live this ridiculous lifestyle where you're restricting yourself and just trying to be pretty and wear makeup in Austin, which I got to the point where I thought it was unlucky to wear makeup. So I never wore makeup when I played, because anytime I even tried to put a little mascara on, I would end up losing. I'm like, it's not worth it. I'd rather win. But I do think sponsors are getting better. Like, the more that female sports grow and gain popularity, like, there's a lot more equity among men and women and how sponsors see them, and they want athletes that succeed and are good. So it just pays off, I think, to be the best that you can be. Okay, switching gears a little bit, but staying on social media, Brooke, there's obviously like influencers who are everywhere talking about nutrition fads and just spreading kind of false, harmful information. How can we sift through that and decipher what is good versus bad?
Yeah, really great question. I think it's already been touched on a little bit, but realizing these usually aren't athletes and even elite athletes that are giving this advice. So I think that's step one, is like taking a step back. Like we've all been talking about, like, oh, she's so attractive, she's lean, she's telling me I should intermittent fast to feel my best. But what does she know about my lifestyle?
Yeah.
Like, nothing. And so I think that's where we get really lost in the weeds, because I think, at least for me, like when I'm in a social media scroll, I'm in a vacuum, and like I have to literally pull myself out of it. I feel like I'm in a black hole. Like, you just get so wrapped up in it, and I think we lose that perspective on our own lives and like exactly what our goals are. So I think that's step number one, is really having that filter, like Molly mentioned, maybe it's even blocking or muting those types of stories and posts. So for me, it's like step one, is this person a professional? Or do they know what they're talking about nutrition wise? Just because it worked for them, why would that work for me? And even if it is an athlete giving you advice, that might not work for you either. Like we all have such different body types and goals and needs. You should be getting your advice from professionals. So those are kind of the two things that I would really recommend anyone does.
Yeah, we were talking, somebody mentioned your Instagram before we got on here. And you do like TikTok videos and stuff?
Oh gosh. No, I wish I was good at them. Like I could compete with all these influencers, but it just takes a lot of time and effort. It's
Do you
a craft.
share nutrition information on it?
Yeah, for sure.
Do you want to share your Instagram handle?
Yeah, sure. It's dietitianbrooke_. So if you want to check out information there. I usually talk about practical things like pre-game fueling, post-game, grocery shopping, snacks, like all the questions I get day to day from athletes. I just want to give practical advice. I think everyone wants like, oh, what's a good recipe or meal plan? But at the end of the day, most people just want to know like, what are the best electrolyte products, or like, what should I be eating maybe during a timeout? Like little things like that go a long way. So I try to keep it practical.
I feel like one red flag maybe for, the bad advice coming from social media is when they're telling you to eat less. Anybody telling you like fasting or cutting calories or cutting carbs, like that maybe is someone you shouldn't listen to.
Yeah, for sure. And
Okay.
again, it's like you mentioned, is it sustainable? Like, is this something you're like, I need to eat? Okay, we actually all need to eat. Like everyone does. No one should be restricting themselves. And especially as an athlete, like we need to fuel our bodies. And I think I'll probably mention this a lot tonight, but having that performance lens, like, is this supporting my performance? If your goal is to perform at a high level, then that should really be what we're taking the angle on with our fueling. So yeah, anything that's not sustainable, I
Yeah.
think huge red flag.
Yeah, perspective is big.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on to more fitness and nutrition, looking through that lens. Brooke, what are some of the most common misconceptions athletes have about nutrition and fueling when they come to see you, would you say?
Yeah. I think along the lines, it's usually like trends on TikTok or Instagram, maybe like skipping meals or feeling like I need to feel lighter to be my best. That's a really common theme. And I think it's men and women. Like we all just associate thinness with like correlation to top performance for some reason, and that's never been proven. There might be a certain weight that you feel your best when you're performing, but that's not necessarily going to be your lightest. And that could potentially be your underfueling. So, there's two sides of that. Also, I think like utilizing caffeine in place of meals, that's a huge one that I see with a lot of athletes, telling me they have a lot of energy, and caffeine's just tricking our brains, telling us that we're not tired. It's not actually giving us usable energy. So I think that's something all age groups are using caffeine in place of food, and it's just not sustainable fuel. So that's a huge one. And then I think another one would probably be like being super restrictive with, I can't eat past 7 p.m. or, setting these really strict guidelines on when you can eat. Those types of things usually are rooted in like fear. And so I think those are probably the top themes that I'm seeing.
And not scientifically reasonable.
Yeah. Or like someone told them it worked for them. So then it's like, that's their religion now because so-and-so got results from it.
Yeah. Okay. I guess you talked like how would you help them fix these bad habits? You just kind of correct their thinking about them and share the science, the actual science with them. And
yeah, and keeping it open-ended, like, okay, is it working for you? Like I'd really just out of curiosity, do you feel like that's helping you be the best version of yourself? And there's not usually a definitive answer to those questions.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm not sure, I haven't done it long enough. I'm just trying it out.
Yeah.
So, and again, if it's not sustainable, it won't last long. That's like when keto got really big, everyone was telling me they were doing keto and they could last like a day. They're like, I'm starving, I need carbs. So things like that. If someone wants to try something, I'm like, cool, do it. Like, absolutely. I'm not going to tell you how to eat. I just want to support you in your performance. And ultimately they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But I want to guide them with science. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, Molly, looking back on your journey, what are some of the bigger mistakes you think you made when it came to nutrition? And then how did you correct those and change that?
Yeah. I've made lots of mistakes. I've done keto. Not proud, but it's just, I mean, yeah, every diet I tried, it was not sustainable. None of them. And I would want results immediately. So that was the hardest part. But I think the hardest thing that I had to realize through all of this was that I couldn't skinny my way out of this mental disorder. The skinnier I got, I didn't get happier. And I think that's something that a lot of girls think, is that when they lose weight, they'll be happy. Okay, when I lose 10 pounds, I'll be happy. I'll be pretty. Everybody will like me. I'll get more attention from guys, whatever. And I can assure you that I've been every weight for my body type that I've fluctuated here and there. And I was not happy through anything that I did, no matter how small I got. I think I was my most unhappy when I was my smallest, because it was like, I would wake up and be like, okay, food, okay, can't eat that, okay. I like going to bed, I'm starving. And so it was always just, my brain was around food, my relationships were lacking, and actually, I feel like I didn't really have anyone around me because I just kept them so far away. I didn't want to go out to restaurants and all this stuff. And I think that's just the hardest part about it, is we obsess so much over something, and we think that, the grass is greener, but it's not. Yeah.
So what's your mentality now? And maybe what's the biggest thing that helped you get there?
I mean, my mentality now, I've worked really hard to trust my body through all of this. I mean, the hardest thing for me was that I wasn't trusting my hunger cues, and I was numbing them. So through all of this, I've learned to listen to my body. I actually recently got hunger cues back like a couple years ago, and that was huge for me because I stopped getting them. That's how serious it was. And I think the mentality is, what is my body telling me? A lot of people ask me like what I eat, what's my diet, like what do I do, what's the secret? And I eat whatever the F I want. And whenever I want, whenever we travel internationally, I'll wake up and have like a protein bar at 2 a.m. because I'm like, my stomach is growling. I need to wake up right now. I can't fall back asleep. And I think my mentality is that, like, my body is my brain. Like, I have to give it what it wants. And if I don't, I will suffer. And that's been the biggest change for me.
Yeah. I think that's huge. Especially when you're pushing your body so hard and you want to go out and have In-N-Out or whatever, like your body is telling you it's craving something that it needs.
Yeah.
And
Exactly.
I think that's one thing I've been lucky enough to listen to, or, for better or worse, it's like after you get done with a long day of training, like go out and eat whatever the F you want, because like recovery is just as important as performance and training. And if you don't help your body recover, you're going to suffer for it in the long run.
And I think there was a time in my life where, like, if I was craving a cookie, I would get like the healthiest cookie, or I would, do something without carbs or whatever. And it's so funny to me because every time I look back, I'm like, I didn't satisfy that craving. So it just built and built, and to the point where then I was like, I need this right now or I'm going to lose my mind. And so just like satisfying that immediately, not being like, I don't want In-N-Out. Like, I'll just have, a turkey burger or whatever. But it's like, sometimes you just need to do it.
Yeah. And then like, the like you point out, the energy you use on trying to find the healthiest option or restrict yourself in some way, like that's energy that you're taking away from the things that really matter. And relating it to our sport, beach volleyball, and all the events you have to play. You're traveling the world and you're playing back to back, and you have to have so many events over the summer, and it's not just like physically staying resilient through all that. Though eating will help you, I believe, stay injury free and strong through everything. It's like, can you mentally stay in it for 6 tournaments in a row? Can you emotionally get up for every tournament? And if you're putting all this energy into not fueling your body, like that's just, it makes it so much harder to be resilient in that way. So I think in all ways, if you want to be successful, it's like you have to listen to your body. You have to make sure that you're taking care of yourself, because it doesn't just affect you physically. It's mentally and emotionally and in all the ways.
Yeah, and I think for me, like I said, my relationships really suffered back then because I wasn't fun to be around. We would go out to eat and I would like ask the waiter, like, what kind of oil are you using? Like what bread is this? Can you tell me this? And the waiter's like, I don't know. Like, why are you asking me this? And so it wasn't really fun to go out to eat anymore. And I felt like a lot of my friends would be like, oh, or like, you know, you can come over for dinner, but we're having this. Is that okay? And I hated that. Like looking back, I made so many people uncomfortable, and I wish I didn't. And so it's good to know and realize that now. But
I might be getting a little out of order here, but can I ask you, so like say one of us feels that one of our friends might be going down the wrong path in this regard. Like, is there some way that we can reach out to them that you feel like might be effective and instead of pushing them away?
Yeah. I mean, this is tough. I think it's situational, but I think for me, the worst thing was people telling me to eat. Just like, eat it, like eat this cookie. They would like shove it in my face and it like worsened everything. It made me not want to be around them. And so when you're supportive in a loving way and you kind of try to understand why they're, you know, doing the things they're doing, and then kind of pushing them in the way of like, hey, if you need real help, like let's get you to someone that knows what to do. Because I say this all the time. I mean, you can reach out to your family and you can reach out to your friends, but they're uncomfortable 100% and they don't know what to say. And they're definitely walking on eggshells. And so the best advice you can get is from a professional, and it shouldn't be coming from your family. I hate to say it. They're loving and amazing, but I think if you're feeling like your friend's kind of going down a rabbit hole, maybe, you know, push them in that direction of seeking actual help, because it could become something worse. But just being there for them and letting them vent. I don't think giving advice is, unless you're a professional, is the way to go.
Okay. No, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for sharing all of that. Okay, Fallon, over to you. When you did the pod, you talked about how during COVID you kind of fell out of some bad habits. Maybe how did that affect you mentally and physically? What motivated you eventually to like get back on track? And maybe you can talk a little bit about the importance of having a healthy routine or a daily routine that keeps you on track.
Yeah, well, COVID sucked. We all know that. So obviously in California, they shut down like everything. And before they shut down everything, I decided not to play during that season that we had that Long Beach kind of weird bubble thing. I was high risk. My son was high risk. My mother-in-law was high risk. So just one of those things of like, I can't bring anything home. And I just got scared like all of us did. We didn't know what was happening. So it's kind of just, it started with that, and then it started with everything shutting down, and then it started with like, we had this routine of going to the park and like working out, and then they shut down the park, and then everyone was like on a bread, you know, making bread, making cookies. Like we were bored, so what do? We cooked and probably drank too much and, you know, making things that we didn't need, and it's evident that I gained weight, and I got into a really depressed headspace where it just felt, I've always been a part of myself when I'm not playing volleyball or I'm not active, that I just got really dark. And it took me a minute to get out of it, especially because just being scared of what COVID was, and then obviously trying to get myself out of the bubble. When you're in that bubble for so long, it kind of gets weird. And it started with small things of my boyfriend and I would just like take a run from like Hermosa Pier all the way down to like Manhattan Pier. It started really small, and I hate running. Like running is not my jam
That
at all.
doesn't sound small.
Oh, yeah, but you know, it's something small.
Yeah, I
Just like
understand what you're
go
saying.
outside,
Yeah,
take a
yeah.
run, like something like that, just to get yourself going. And then the gym started opening up, and then like you're spraying everything, and like it was just one of those things of like, just go figure it out, go throw weights around, go try and do that. And then obviously realizing that I had a problem of not wanting to go to the gym, and then like changing my eating of not wanting to like eat the healthy stuff because we've been eating crappy this whole time. And I also felt like the stiffest I've ever felt in my life. Like I just felt like my body was like robotic in a way. Like I was cracking, like, I don't know, it was probably getting older, but you know, I'm not going to say it was that. I'm going to say it was COVID. But I got to a point where I was like, I need to find a new routine, and the same stuff that I was doing before COVID wasn't working for me. I needed to get to a point where I felt good. So I started doing like, I went to the gym and I would not do the same cardio the same every day of the week. I did a bike, I did elliptical, I ran, I did what is it called? The climber, the Stairmaster, whatever. And I started to find my love for just how working out felt to me and how I felt after. Those two things were really important to me. Like I wanted to get to a point where I was working my body, where like it's kind of like you like feel like you're numb, but you're not gonna like pass out. It's one of those things. I don't know. It's probably just because we were pushed so hard when we were younger. But I was like, I want to get to a point where I feel good, and getting to myself like is consistency. I had to get consistent with it. If I showed up at the gym every day or however many days I said I was going to, that was important to me. And now on social media, I always say I'm checking in, because that was it's like my self-awareness to keep myself accountable, and also for other people, like check in on yourself, check in for yourself, whatever that looks like. If you're going to yoga, if you're going to the gym, if you're going for a walk, whatever that looks like, make sure you're checking in for yourself. So that was really important for me.
Yeah, I think it can be counterintuitive sometimes when it's so hard to get yourself to do these things that are good for you. But those are the things that are going to help you foster a positive body image, right? Like if you're taking care of yourself, if you have a healthy routine, if you get yourself to the gym and you get those endorphins flowing, like you're going to feel better about yourself. If you eat healthy food, that helps your hormones, that helps your mental health, and you don't want to do it. Like it sounds like it sucks, but like in the long run, if you take care of yourself in those ways, get yourself to do those things and make it a habit, like that, it feels like you're almost punishing yourself sometimes, but like you're going to feel better about yourself and foster that positive body image. So I think that's huge. And yeah, we can all learn from, we all have fallen off track, and we've all gotten into bad habits, and just hearing your story about willing yourself back into a good habit is something we can all learn from. Yeah. Okay, Brooke, how important is, this is a big question. I get this question a lot, and it's a sensitive question. I don't know how to answer it, so I'm glad you're here. How important is paying attention to body composition for top performance? Because I know for me, and I'm sure a lot of athletes here, it goes all the way back to freshman year of college, maybe even high school. But I can remember doing the pinch test. We did this like underwater test for body composition, and there were girls, it's like a small tub, and girls were like claustrophobic and freaking out, but like still had to go do it because apparently body composition is like so important. And then, you know, in the weight room getting pinched in front of the football players, and it's just traumatic. It can be traumatic. And so how important is it actually? And maybe like when is a good time to start worrying about it?
Yeah, it's definitely a sensitive topic. And I know even now a lot of college programs are removing body comp protocols, and they're not even doing it. I think even not allowing coaches and trainers to see the results. Okay. It's only between like the dietitian or whoever's performing the body comp with the athletes. And it's just, they know, only the athlete and the professional know the results. And so it's not affecting playing time, scholarship, because that weighed in a lot. I think, even a couple years ago, that was a huge
Wow.
part, of your success as an athlete. And it was like, you were being labeled with like, okay, you're 20%, you're 13%, and then everyone would compare results. I've been a part of teams where that was the culture as well, and just super toxic and just unhealthy. So I think there's a very special way to go about body comp, especially in the team environment. Of course, as an elite athlete, someone aspiring to be at the top, it's going to play a role, and it's going to be something that you probably want to know. And it's great to monitor throughout the season. So for me, it's as a recommendation, if you're interested, it's not just one point in time and then, cool, I'm 15% body fat. And whether you like that number or you don't, it defines you. And I think that's what I try to get away from when I talk to athletes about body composition, because it's more than just your body fat. Like, that is a tiny piece of it. There's so many other components to your body. And no one really wants to talk about their muscle mass. Like, no one's asking me, like, what's my muscle mass composition? It's just so rooted in fat. And I think that's fat phobia and just the messaging we've received as athletes that we should have 0% body fat. And that's just impossible. So it's not going to ever happen.
Yeah, so like in the scheme of things, you have like recovery, sleep, fueling yourself before and after competition, training, obviously, practice. Like, where does body comp fit in there? And like, how much do you think it can affect performance?
Yeah, there really isn't anything, again, there's no paper that shows like you must be between 10 to 20% body fat, or there's no range that we should all fall in, because we're all so different. It's like we all have different energy requirements, so why would we have the same body fat percentage requirement? Like, it just, for some reason, we've decided that we should fit into a box, and that just isn't the case. So I think if it's something that you're looking to improve, maybe you want to increase your lean muscle mass. That would be something I would want to focus on versus micromanaging body fat. And so if we focus on maybe like more resistance training, more protein, getting in more calories, then we can manipulate body composition versus restriction, dieting, thinness. Because ultimately you're going to lose muscle mass when you're losing weight. So if we're under fueling, we're never really going to be able to perform to our peak capabilities because we're losing a lot of muscle mass. So I think in terms of recovery, sleep, training, fueling, it totally plays a role, but we don't even have to monitor it. We don't have to be testing it all the time to know, okay, I'm X% body fat.
That's really interesting. And that resonates with me. Like, I was always a big lifter. Like, I always wanted to be as strong as I possibly could. And I want to lift the most in the gym. And it was my experience that once I started gaining more muscle is when I became more powerful on the court. I gained endurance on the court, and it really didn't have a lot to do with my body fat percentage. But I did notice after getting pinch test in the middle of the weight room, and then having those listed in order from highest to lowest or lowest to highest, I was always the highest. And that messed with me. It made me think that, I don't know, like I was doing something wrong. But now that I can look back, I think it served me. Like, I think you have to have a certain amount of body fat. I feel like it prevented me from getting injured in a lot of instances. It gave me that fuel reserve to push through tournaments and go a lot of tournaments in a row. And so it's been a blessing in disguise, if you will. And I want to ask you, like, because this was really helpful for me when I saw myself at 20% body fat, thinking that I'm fat, what is a normal range for female body fat percentage, and what are some of the health consequences if you slip below that? Like, what's too low?
Sure, yeah. So like I said, we all have different ranges, so I couldn't give you a specific number to fit in. But there is essential body fat that we all need. So for women, we don't want to dip below 12-ish% is about what a lot of the research shows. So people that are aspiring to be, you know, single digit body fat percents, it's not necessarily going to be the healthiest option for you, especially as a female, because we have more reproductive needs and organs we need to take care of, and our hormones as well. And so desiring to be super low body fat is actually not going to be beneficial in the long run. Men, it's a lot different. They have different needs. So we wouldn't want to compare ourselves to men, of course, in that situation either. So instead of focusing on, like, you know, being as low as possible, again, how's your performance? How's your sleep? How's your mood? How's your recovery? There's so many other factors we could look at that have nothing to do with your body composition or the scale or even the mirror. There's a lot more we could be looking at.
So what are some warning signs if we're not actually measuring our body fat? Like, what might be a sign or two that we're getting too low?
Yeah, I think kind of those things I just touched on. I think your mood, your energy levels, those are going to be really key factors. And like Molly was saying, like, not the most pleasant to be around. Like, you know, when you're not feeling great, and other people can sense it too. Recovery, our bodies are really smart. So the energy we are giving it is going to be utilized for training and competition. And then everything else suffers. So recovery, sleep, bone health, reproductive organs, hormone health, like all of these essential things keeping us alive are going to suffer. So a lot of athletes tell me, you know, let's say they're restricting calories. They say they feel amazing when they're training. I feel so light, I feel so good. But how's the rest of your day? Are you just wanting to nap and crash and you feel like crap the entire rest of your day? That's a sign that we're under fueling. So I think there's a lot more we can look at than a number.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. We're going to switch gears a little bit. Well, not a ton, but we're going to look at how body image potentially affects our mental health, which obviously they're tied really close to each other. So I'm just going to, you know, I think for Molly or Fallon, anyone who wants to answer, has worrying about how you look on the court ever affected your mental game, and how?
For me, I vividly remember one experience. I was playing in the Chicago AVP, and it was almost 90 degrees, and I would not take off my leggings. I just could not, because I was so nervous about what people would think about my stomach. And I always remember that tournament because it was so hot. It was noticeably hot. And I think everybody else was in bathing suits, even the fans. And looking back on photos, I'm like, why did I do that? Like, no one cared that much. And I think it's important to know that no one is looking at you as much as you think they are. And if they are, they have their own issues. And I think that's important to know. And even now, I do have moments in games where I'm like, okay, are they looking at my butt? Like, is my bathing suit too small? Oh my gosh, I just dove. Like, did I show something? Like, I'm so nervous. Like, oh my gosh, I feel bloated today. And you go through all these things. Like, as a girl, it's like, are you on your period? Like, oh my gosh. And if someone is really obsessing about your body as a player on the court, I kind of had to get that edge where it was like, okay, then you get on the court and play in a bathing suit. Like, let's see you do it, because it doesn't matter. And I think it kind of bleeds into the conversation of like photos from photographers. And, you know, you can obsess about these photos for hours and, oh my gosh, my stomach, you know, I dove and my stomach looks weird here. Or, you know, I have love handles on this one. But it's like, we're doing these incredible things. We're diving all over the court. No photo is going to look amazing. And if it does, like, awesome. But if it doesn't, like, it shouldn't. Like, you kind of should look ugly when you're diving. I don't know one person that dives, like, you know, beautifully, but I think that's something important to remember. And so, yeah, I think even now when I play, I have moments. But, yeah, I always come back to if someone is obsessing about me, it's their problem. They're having their own issues, and they're projecting it onto me.
Yeah, I love that idea of having an edge. Like, you have to, it's almost like a decision that you're going to be confident in how you look and F everybody else.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just think it's a decision you make and you run with it. And the photo thing is important also. And Photos were a big deal for me. Like, I swear every photographer just wanted to take a photo of me in my most hunched over, like passing like this, and I'd have 3 rolls, and like, why do you guys want that photo so bad? And you know, now that I'm pregnant and I've gained a little bit of weight, I look back on all of those photos, the ones that I thought were bad and good. I'm like, oh my God, I look amazing. Like, why did I ever second guess myself? But I think for me, I'd be like, you know what? I'm a great passer. And this photo shows that, like, I'm nailing this pass or I'm nailing this dig. And that's what I kind of had to focus on in these photos, and just move past it. And then just reminding yourself, you know, like, performance is the number one thing. Like, how our bodies work for us is what we should be focused on, not how they look. And are we treating them right? They're amazing. Look at all the things they can do. They allow us to play this great sport as a career, and blah, blah. So it's that perspective, and just focusing on the right things. And I never thought about having an edge, but I like that too.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
My sister, who is not an athlete, she's actually an artist. She always tells me, like, after a game, I don't know how you just did that in a bathing suit. Like, I can't even walk in the sand in a bathing suit and be confident. So I always remember that.
Yeah.
It's true.
It is true. Anyone who gets
people.
out there and tries to do that is going to just die in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Fallon, did you want to add on to that?
Sure, why not? My very first year on the AVP, I literally wore, like, I want to call them like boxer briefs. Like, they were like the really thick ones that, like, they still didn't cover my whole butt. You know, obviously I'm blessed, thank you God. But, you know, well, I just, you know, without cussing, see, I'm getting better. You know, it was just something that I, like, thought that I would be comfortable in, but, like, it was the worst bathing suit I ever wore, because, like, more sand just got into your bathing suit because you have more things covering you. Well, not more things, but you know what I mean? It's just one of those things that I've never worn a bathing suit like that. So it was one of those things of being self-conscious of, like, are these people looking at my butt? Are these, like, I made it more of a big deal because I wanted my game to speak more than my body. And it was one of those things of that I tried the whole year to just focus on, and it was all for the wrong reasons, obviously. And after that, I found a really awesome sponsor who is called Pepper Swim. They are 2 amazing stay-at-home moms who, like, came to my house and made me feel great. They customized my bottoms, and, like, it was one of those things of just, it made me feel special because, like, no one has ever asked me, like, what makes you comfortable in a bathing suit? So I think that's what kind of gave me a little bit of an edge. And then, you know, there's one comment I remember them making. It was, well, it's just going to scrunch in your butt anyway. It happens to all of us. And that stayed with me because, like, just like you said, when you dive, when you hit, like, sorry, but my butt's literally going to eat the bathing suit. So it really has no, like, it didn't really matter. You know, it's one of those things. If I'm really going to go get this point and give my 100%, why do you care? Like, why do you even care what the bathing suit does? And so my friends and I had a group text, and, like, we would do a wedgie count because I would always talk about how many wedgies I had to get out in that one game. Like, it just felt in that one rally, I, like, had to get a wedgie out. Like, and it came, like, playful and fun. And I think that's what was awesome about it. And now, like, everyone thinks I play in a thong. No, sorry. I actually play in, like, a real bathing suit. It just ends up being there. But now I just don't care at that point. It's just, you know, does it make me feel comfortable? Does it make me feel confident? Like, well, those are the things that really
help
important.
me perform well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If it's restricting me, then for sure, let's get it off me. But it's one of those things.
That leads me to ask this question, and I hate this question more than anything, but I'm going to ask it anyways.
Okay, I'm ready.
Awesome.
Did you prep me for this?
No, I didn't prep you for this.
Oh God. Okay.
You know, everybody thinks that we're forced to wear bikinis and that it's this negative thing. It sexualizes us, and we have to wear them against our will. And it's come a long way in the last decade. I actually was at a tournament, I forget, it was like early 2000s. And me and Jen Kessie, we wanted to wear the boy shorts. And we show up at a FIVB World Tour event, match, and the ref comes over and he goes, "You can't wear those are too big." The tournament director comes over with a ruler and measures how long they are on the sides of our legs and is like, "Yeah, they're too big." And of course, I mean, if you guys know Jen Cash, she's just like, F you, we're not changing. Like, this is what we're going to wear. And of course, they had to just like let us play because that would have been ridiculous. And now you can wear whatever you want. You see girls wearing shorts, tank tops, and I think that's awesome. But how do you guys feel about playing in a bikini? Like, personally, I like it. Just what are your thoughts on it? Because I know there's people out there probably wondering the same thing.
I prefer playing in a bathing suit. I think I play better when this is gonna sound weird, when I have less clothes on to worry about. But yeah, I think the worst is when I keep clothes on because I'm feeling like bloated or insecure or something. But so for me, I like wearing a bathing suit. But yeah, I've gotten comments before about, like, your bathing suit is skimpy on Instagram or like DMs and stuff, and it's like, okay, like, cool.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say to that. And yeah, it's our choice. I could wear whatever I want. But there was one FIVB I played in, and I, just wasn't feeling great about my body, so I kept leggings on, and the ref was like, take those off. And I was playing with Therese, and she was like, oh, how dare they say that? And I was like, I don't know the rules, but at the time I was like, that is unbelievable that they would make us. And unfortunately, in my situation, I did have to take off my leggings. But if I would have fought it maybe a little bit more. But yeah, that definitely upset me. But I do like playing in a bathing suit.
No, I love playing in a bathing suit. As I got out of that COVID phase where I felt dark, if you see in the AVP, I wore a lot of biker shorts. That was kind of my safety net, which it kind of was like I had my bathing suit underneath, but it kind of, I felt in my mind protected me in a way where I didn't have to feel like people were staring at me or give me scrutiny because I was bigger. But I mean, if I wore a t-shirt and biker short, I could care less as long as I'm playing well, and as long as it felt freeing or loose, or as long as it's not doing anything to harm it or make me feel restricted, I could care less. But it's all about what you need to do for yourself in that moment, whether it's on your period or bloated, or maybe it's just cold and you don't want to wear it. Like, either or, it doesn't really.
Yeah. I mean, it's most important to feel comfortable. I always felt like it was a little bit of trial by fire. Like, it's really a litmus test for like how much can you accept your body and be out there and be confident in it, no matter what you're wearing. Like, it doesn't matter what you're wearing as long as like it aids in your performance and you feel comfortable. So in a way, I felt like it was a positive thing for me. But I love that you can play in whatever you want now. Okay, next question. For anyone, if you find yourself in a situation or an environment where you feel like you're at risk of being triggered or falling back into bad habits, how do you manage that and prevent yourself from backsliding?
I'll go first. Okay. I think, so when I start to feel like, something coming on, or I'm feeling a little triggered by something, I have to think, what does my day look like? Did I get enough sleep? Did I eat enough? Am I malnourished? Because most of the time when I get like angry or, things upset me faster, it's because I didn't eat enough and I'm hangry and I need more sleep. But over time, I've realized that to overcome that, I personally need like a motherly voice or like comfort, and it's not coming from my own mom. It's not coming from anyone else, because in an eating disorder, you have to do this for yourself. You can get as many compliments as you want, but you're not gonna get out of it unless you decide to move forward yourself. So whenever I'll let the sirens go by. Whenever I encounter a situation, I usually like taking some space to myself and reminding myself in like a motherly fashion of like, I'm loved, I can eat, I'm okay, I can eat whatever I want, I can nourish my body, it's all gonna be okay. And I have to do it myself, and it can't come from anyone else as much as I want it to. And I wish someone could say the perfect thing. It has to come from me, because it's like me that has to get through this myself. So that's usually what I do.
Kind of loving on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very similar in the sense of Molly. Triggering for me is the people closest to me. I think obviously the hardest thing to hear is people who love you and who are closest to you. And it has to be from me. And I think the last 3 years, journaling has been my thing. I'm a big affirmations person and I'm a big goals person. Every day I write that down. And I think once I catch myself feeling triggered in any way, like my affirmations are really the same. And I have to like talk to myself. And I like to do it when I first wake up because it's like, what are you feeling after you go to sleep? What is that initial feeling you're feeling? Get it out on paper. And my affirmations, if I feel triggered, it's like, you are blessed, you are loved, you are beautiful, you are able, you are enough. And I'm a religious person, so I always say that like I am God's vessel and I am God's child. Like those things are always something I always put down there if I feel triggered. And it's helped me because like all of those things are true. Like I can actually say those things and feel them, and then I'll feel kind of at peace in a way. But it's just one of those things of, I've always been a good self-talk person on the court, but learning how to do it off the court has always been rough. Because obviously I like to be a little bit more aggressive in my self-talk on the court. And you can't do that to yourself when you're off the court, because you have to look at yourself in the mirror and be happy and be loved and feel those things so you can project it to others. So I think that's been something that I've been working on still to this day. I'm not great at it at all, because, we're human, but it's this one thing of being able to, or also being vulnerable to, being in a moment where you feel that you talking to yourself isn't enough. Maybe I just need to talk to one person that makes me feel and who really knows me, like, hey, I'm kind of struggling with like how I feel. Maybe it's like I feel like I'm super bloated. I worked out 2 hours today and I feel like I did nothing. It's one of those things of whatever that person has to say could or could not matter, but it's saying it to someone else. Sometimes it feels good.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge. That leads me to this next question. You talked about kind of how you talk to yourself off the court and that being a little bit tougher than on the court. So I just want to know, what are some of the ways you guys foster a positive body image off the court as well? Because it can't just be like, I'm going to get on the court and then I'm going to think positively about myself, right? Like it's important to take care of ourselves holistically. It's a practice and we want to make it routine and ingrained so that when we get out there, it's just natural. Do you guys have any more? I mean, you talked about affirmations and journaling.
Affirmations for sure. Journaling are another thing. I think dressing up has been another one of my favorites after COVID, because I had to like burst my bubble and like get out and not look like an athlete 95% of the time. Because like sometimes I would like get ready and I'm like, oh, you look kind of cute. Like, it's one of those things. Like I haven't seen myself dressed up or put makeup on, or like sometimes my hair in a bun the whole entire time. I forget what my hair looks like. You know what I mean? It's just one of those things, like you shock yourself. I think dressing up in different ways has been fun. I have a Black Girl Caucus group that we would go to like brunch or lunch or dinner, and I would try different looks, and like they would give me like, oh, we're trying to be edgy today. Like, it's just one of those things of just trying to, it's like being a kid again. You're dressing up, it's finding yourself in different settings where you can positively look at yourself and be like, okay, I like this look, or maybe this is not for me. Like, you tried it, but let's not do that again. It's being playful and loving yourself in a different way where you're in a safe space with people you love, and they're gonna give you like, I don't know about this. If you like it, okay. Like I like honesty. Sorry, but it's just one of those things of loving yourself in different in different looks, I guess,
and letting other people love on you
exactly
too.
Yeah. That's one of those things.
One of my go-tos was always I would allow myself to go out and like buy a new outfit that I felt really good in, and retail therapy is a thing. Like, yes, making myself feel good about myself is important. I am still a huge journaler. And for me, it's like, if I'm feeling one way or another, having some negative thoughts, like getting that out on paper and like seeing how negative it is, and then being able to correct those after I've looked at them and write those down. And then they kind of become affirmations, and you figure out, you know, this is how I want to think versus this is how I'm thinking. And it just makes things a little bit more concrete for me. Those were probably my 2 go-tos. Also, just self-care, like taking time to relax and do whatever makes you feel good, you know, whether that be getting your nails done or maybe getting a massage here and there, like treating yourself well, however that is for you, I think is really important. Do you have any off the court?
Well, it's important to know that your off the court self-talk leaks onto the actual court. And yeah, you can't talk bad about yourself off the court and expect to get on the court and be forgiving towards a mistake. I know back when I was super bad about that, my game was super angry. Like I was always angry. I was like, oh my God, like everything was a big reaction. And I think lately I've gotten so much better about, you know, forgiveness and patience off the court that when I get on the court, I'm like, okay, it's just 1 point, all good. Like, you know, it's just rolling off my back. And I think some things I like to do, I think the worst thing for me is to be alone. I think James would also agree, because sometimes I just want that, you know, space to kind of spiral almost, but that's not what is good for me. And I think the best thing to do is just get out of the house, go do something, hang out with friends, because they take your mind off of all of the bad stuff. But yeah, I think when I'm in a bad headspace, I usually go into like thicker clothing and like covering more so, and which is completely fine, like wear whatever is comfortable. But I think once I force myself to wear something that's my size, like not an extra large sweatshirt, I think when I'm out in public, it's a little uncomfortable, but you start to appreciate your body a little bit more. Because yeah, I mean, I think the worst thing for me to do is, just cover up all the time. And I find myself wearing those baggy shirts, which they're comfortable, but it's okay to show your body and be proud of it and to wear the size that fits you instead of trying to hide everything all of the time.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a practice.
Yeah.
Like, and you're never going to master it. It's something you have to work at all the time, whether it's self-talk, whether it's wearing outfits that you know, show off your body a little bit and you feel good about. You got to stay on it every day. Yeah. Okay. I know we have a lot of coaches watching and wanting advice for their teams. In your guys' experience, like is there anything your coaches could have done or done differently, or things they did well to support a positive body image? Or what can they do? What can the coaches watching do to maybe support their athletes having a positive body image? Things to stay away from also.
I think the most important thing to do is not put everyone in a box. We're not the same. I think the worst thing that I've experienced is a coach comparing me to another defender, and they're like, go be her. And then, you know, in my head, I'm like, okay, well, I need to be this person because I'm not, you know, good enough. And you start comparing yourself to someone else. But I think being able to understand that all of us play differently, we're all different sizes and we move differently, and maybe someone's faster than you, but you're smarter than them on the court. And as a coach, everyone is different. You can't just, you know, categorize everyone into one specific spot, like middles are middles and, you know, blockers are blockers. And that's not the case. We're all different. We all move different. Or fast twitch or slow twitch. And I think that's the worst thing you can do. So understanding that, we're all so different in our movements and our bodies. Yeah.
I'm going to use the word culture. You have to know the culture of your team. You have to know the culture of where your kids come from. I think it's the hardest as a coach is to take time for each and every kid that you have, or woman or man that you have on your team, because one thing that might work for one person is not going to work for another, just like she was saying. I know something that obviously, like, I was always compared to Alex Kleiman because I went to Maricosta with her, and then played against her at Stanford, and we are two completely different hitters. I'm a meathead. She is more of a finesser. Like, that's just what I am. And I would just like to hit balls hard all the time. And it was more like I was always compared in that way to not so much body type. Obviously, we're bipolar opposite, but to mimic that person, it can get obsessive. It can be one of those things of like, I have to do that. And I'm glad that I never really took that as I had to be that body type. I don't know where I would be right now. But I think also for coaches, being vulnerable is another thing that is very important. Like showing that you are a human. You don't have to look like you're perfect or be perfect. Like, I understand like leadership is really huge in your role, but being able to have a level of respect and a level of vulnerability with your team is really important, because they're going to be able to trust you with information and also things that maybe scare them, that's holding them back, and that's just what you have to break through. But I mean, there is no manual, but I would just say vulnerability and knowing your culture is really important.
And just making your team and the athletes a lot, like making sure they know that you support them. Yes. And that you are willing to work with them on whatever they come to you with. I think showing that you care about your athletes, number one, is going to create that culture that allows you to deal with all of these things and be successful and even closer knit as a team, which is huge for performance. And just supporting your athletes as humans, which is number one. I know you have some stuff you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, I think, first of all, as a coach, no one's expecting you to be like a nutrition expert or any other expert than a coach. So I think staying in your scope and not feeling responsible for having to be the one to have that conversation about weight or body comp or those concerns. I think finding those professionals to support the athletes in that way, and especially if they're young and still developing, not hyper focusing on weight, because that's going to fluctuate and change, and it's going to actually help their development. And we shouldn't be concerned if they have a little extra body fat on them as they're developing. And so again, not making that something we're focusing on. And even if you don't have access to a dietitian, there's so many resources, again, rooted in science, not just like influencers on social media. There's tons of websites and resources with tips on fueling a youth athlete or a high school collegiate athlete. So I think using those resources versus, coming at them like, we need you to lose weight. And I think that can really scar a young athlete for the rest of their career, and it can be really impactful. So again, I just think even though it's coming from a really great place, you care about their health and you think they could be a better athlete or maybe have more potential, I think it would do more harm to be the person to go to them and mention their weight, because it's just not going to end well.
As an example, like my freshman year at USC, I gained 20 pounds, still got player of the year, still made it to the Final Four. Like, weight is not a determinant of performance. But it's something that coaches, at least back in the day, like focused on a lot. Like you said, I think it's getting better, but I just feel strongly like there's no point in using weigh-ins. There's no point in comparing your athletes body fat wise. Like, this is all stuff that happened to me when I was in college. Yeah. And this should go without saying, but like, we don't need to talk publicly about somebody's body composition or weight in front of the team. I know for a fact that this has happened, like, to many of my friends who played for college, coaches calling them out for not being in shape because maybe their body fat is a little bit higher in front of the whole team. And that has led to so many issues that I know of. So for me, that's like the number one thing you don't want to do as a coach. Like you mentioned, like now that like body comp is evolving, you only do it with a nutritionist. You don't share it with the coach. The coach should not be focused on that. They're not a nutritionist. Like, you stay in your lane, focus on teaching your athletes how to be the best volleyball players they can be, regardless of what they look like. I also think that having inclusive uniforms maybe options for uniforms could be a really great thing. Randomly, I was tagged in a LA Times article today about body image and how 70% of athletes drop out because of concerns about body image or the uniforms they have to wear. And it's like, it's such an easy fix. Like maybe you have t-shirts rather than tank tops if your athletes want to wear them, shorts instead of spandex. When I was playing in high school, we wore shorts, and a lot of us hated it because we wanted to wear spandex like all the other teams, but like it probably was great for some athletes. So I think that's another way that coaches can maybe promote or allow for more positive body image.
I had one thing to add.
Yeah.
I think I trained a few athletes who were going from high school into college, and I noticed that obviously that book that they give you before you get to college, and they're like, all right, go and do all of this conditioning, lifting, all that, but come in the best shape of your life. I think we need to get rid of get in the best shape of your life, because I feel like that was an obsessive thing that kind of hindered the kids that I coached. Obviously, this is a scope of what you need to do, what you're going to do in college, but I think there also needs to be like a conversation of like, we need you to be able to run fast, like give them examples. We need you to be able to hit 20 balls in a row. Like, I feel like there needs to be a conversation that way more than saying like, be in the best shape of your life because, you know, you're going to get your butt kicked. I'm getting better. But I just want to, tell the kids that like, or also I want to tell the coaches first, like, get your dialogue and language and learn the kids and what is going to help them. Because obviously getting a top recruit or a middle recruit, it doesn't really matter. Any recruit needs to have a trust with you, needs to have a foundation, but also they should be wanting to get better each and every day for you and for the team in a positive way, instead of it being like, oh my God, I'm going to die the first day. Like it's just, it's one of those things. It's a fear that they're not going to be enough when they get there. And that could be not even just high school to college, it'd be college to pro national team, whatever. There's so many levels of that, but I think we can be better at that.
Yeah, I'm a huge advocate for working hard and showing up in shape, but I never did those summer workouts, not a single day. And I was fine. But that's a good point. Okay, just before we move on to our last section, I don't know if you guys off the top of your head know of professional, or how can someone who maybe knows or thinks they need professional help, how can they go about that? Like, where should they start? Are there resources in your guys' experience? Maybe.
Okay, I'll go. From experience, when I wanted professional help, I literally just Googled it. But I mean, if you know someone that has gone through it themselves, obviously you can send me a DM. But I think it could be as simple as that, and you could try out a few, whether it be a dietitian, nutritionist, therapist, you just try out a few. But it could literally be as simple as just Googling nearby therapists. It could be on like Zoom, so they don't actually have to be in your city. But I think, doing it yourself is fine. But if you know someone that has done it before, asking for, a recommendation. I've had a lot of people do that, and I always have good recommendations. So, just reaching out to someone that might have gone through it as well.
And maybe you could share your Instagram handle so people can DM you if they
want
to.
At Molly Evelyn Turner. I think that's it. It is? Okay.
Thanks, Kelly.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. There's a lot of different websites that have specific dietitians, because dietitians are like doctors. You definitely want to go to one that specializes in whatever it is you're looking for. So like myself, I don't specialize in disordered eating or eating disorders. For me, it would be more the sports realm. But there's tons of websites. One, for example, is called Health Profs, health and then PROFS. And that can show you a ton of different health professionals in your area. And so you can filter it and find whatever you're looking for specifically, whether that be a therapist, dietitian, anything like that. So that's a website that I would vet, and that would be a good option for you to check out if you're interested in finding someone in your area.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay. Moving on to the last section, we have 3 questions left about embracing body diversity. So Fallon, we're going to start with you. What are the most effective tools you use? This might be redundant, but what are the most effective tools you use that allow you to love your body and just own it?
I think like this morning I woke up and like I told myself in the mirror, and I was like, I love you. It was just saying that I love you. I think that really is something.
It's so powerful.
It's so different.
You look yourself in the mirror, in the eyes, and you say
it's the best when you have crust in your eyes and the bun is here and you're just not feeling it. It's the best at that moment, because it's like, if I can love myself at the crusties and, you know, everything sideways, I can love myself at my best moment. And I think that's one tool I really use every morning when I say I love you to myself, because like just literally having nothing distract you and having that moment with yourself is really important, because I'm a true believer, if you love yourself, you can truly love others. Another one, I think it's like, for me, I want to be a representation for kids. Like my son is huge for me. And I think that's where my spectrum is. It's like, I want him to be fully capable of being himself and being comfortable and being who he is, to also like my morals and who I am are really important. And I think that's kind of my compass of where my tool is also, and where I don't really alter other directions. It's, you know, would he be proud of me? Would he be smiling and laughing like, oh yeah, that's my mom? Or even like his friends are super huge, because social media is huge too. Like, is that something like, oh, your mom's cool? Like, obviously I want to be a cool mom. That's something that's really important to me. Another thing too, I think I do it also. Another tool is like, I remember the little girl who was scared to be different. I always remember that. Not as like a fear thing, but also just as like a do it for her kind of thing. Because I think that being so scared to be different, being so scared to look different, made me to, I guess, be this loud, vivacious person now. Because being scared in that moment it was worthless in a sense, because I was scared for all the wrong reasons. I was scared to be different because people were going to pick on me, when now all of those same people who pick on me, I see at the grocery store and they're like, hey, Fallon, great job the other day. Yeah. And I'm like, well, you were an a-hole to me before. Like, what happened? But I think those are tools that now that I look back on, and I'm like, wow, like I need to keep building off of that little girl who was so scared to be who she wanted to be.
Yeah, that makes sense. Those are great. Do you have any to add, Molly?
Nothing that compares to that. That was amazing.
Don't think you love you.
Yeah, snaps around. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely going through 2 different things. So for me, it's just making sure that I'm feeling myself correctly, and that's the best thing I can do. And some days I fall off, and other days I'm amazing at it. But for me, I think the best thing that I can do as a tool is just eat enough and eat the right things to be able to perform, because, you know, the sport is super important to me, and I feel, you know, myself when I'm on the court, and if, you know, not eating and being injured or something because I didn't eat enough keeps me from playing, I'm going to deeply regret that. So, you know, it's a little different than Fallon, but it's something I have to, it's something I have to know is I need to do this for myself and fuel properly. Yeah.
That's huge. And one thing I'm hearing, like one thing I know about both of you guys, and I'm hearing from both of you guys, is like, because I know you have a separate Instagram that you share your story on and try to encourage people. So you're both really big role models in different spaces. And I don't know if you feel that responsibility, or if that responsibility encourages you to stay on the right path, you know what I mean? And like, continue to have that body positivity and share that with everybody? Like, is that a tool that you guys think about?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Definitely. I think I am lucky to have a lot of people reach out to me, and like younger girls. And I mean, I'm definitely not cured yet and from all this. I'm still healing, but I think, you know, hearing all of them say like, oh, I look up to you, it's like super sweet. And I almost feel like a fraud sometimes because I'm like, I say things that I don't do. And, but you know,
You're teaching, and you know these things. You have an awareness. You've learned from experience, and you're sharing that, which is really important.
Right.
And it goes to show that you know what you need to do to take care of yourself, which is step one.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Being a role model, I feel like I fell into the position, and I say that in a way of like I was a really bad, like not really bad, but like I was bossy and bitchy. Sorry, I was supposed to cuss, but like in my adolescent years, that from having a kid to playing beach volleyball to like having the friends I did, I kind of got my mother nature type, my like nurturing type thing, and like looking into the crowd, like the Norse twins are like my kids. I feel like I've seen their whole journey, and like seeing them every time at a tournament would just give me that sense of like, I need to keep pushing. I need to keep going because like, I want to be that example for them. Like in not just them, there's so many different kids that I coached before. And it's kind of like what you said, like sometimes I would say something and not do it and feel like a fraud. But at the end of the day, like they knew I was right in a way because like more times than not, I was doing what I was saying. But, you know, I feel that we're humans, so we're not going to always 100% be who we're saying we are, obviously, because we're human. But, you know, I take it really seriously to be genuine and be there for them as much as possible and be there for myself to show up, because if I show up for myself, I feel like I'm showing them the same thing.
And I know people reach out to you on Instagram also, so I've given them a chance to share their handles. I want to give you a chance to share your
Yeah, I'm
Instagrams.
at Fallon Fanoy Moana. If you think Moana the movie, you'll find me. Makes it easier.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. Thanks for sharing, you guys. Okay, important question. How do we create safe spaces for female athletes to discuss body image concerns openly and seek support when necessary?
Yeah, I think that word vulnerability that's been coming up a lot, I think that helps people who want to talk to you and sharing stories. Like I guarantee you guys are going to get so many people reaching out to you just for how vulnerable you're being with your stories. But I think ultimately, like in my case, like I mentioned in the beginning, just hopefully creating relationships and making people feel safe around me, that I'm not going to go tell the rest of the staff or their coach or anyone else what we talked about, and building that rapport. So I think we can all be really good listeners. We don't always have to have advice either, and that's something we feel responsibility and pressure when people share, that we have to give our advice. But a lot of times people are just looking for an ear. And so I think that's huge in a non-judgmental way.
I think just stop talking about other people's bodies.
Yeah.
That's a big one. I catch myself doing it all the time, but it's none of my business to even comment like, oh, that, you know, they look a little bit skinnier, or they look different. Like, it's none of our business. And I think the way that we can make, you know, this a little bit easier and be able to communicate about, you know, body image and, you know, all that stuff is that we don't look at others and judge them, whether it be a nice judgment or a bad judgment. I think we all fall into that, and commenting like, oh, they look good. Like, why do they look good? Normally it's because they lost weight. So maybe just lay off of that, or catch yourself every now and then to not comment on others' bodies, because then you start looking inside yourself a little bit more too. So
Yeah. I think 100%.
Sometimes that reinforces like bad behavior as well. Like people feel validated, like, oh, I look better because I've lost weight, so I should continue these bad habits. Like I'm more than now all of a sudden because people are noticing that I've lost weight or I look leaner. I think I notice that a lot with athletes, is they feel that pressure because all of a sudden they're getting more attention because they look a certain way, and really internally they're struggling. Like you mentioned, at your smallest, you felt your worst, but maybe you're getting the most compliments.
Yeah, and that's the worst. That's the worst, because it's like, obviously you want that. You want people to notice that you look different, but yeah, looking back at it, I'm like, I wish I didn't get those compliments, because it reinforced it, and it was so unhealthy. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good call. Just not commenting at all. Like whether it's good or bad, you don't comment on the way their face looks, their body looks. It's about who they are as people, how they're performing. If they have a great performance, you can compliment them on that.
Yeah.
It just allows us to, it like drives us in a way that allows us to be more inclusive as a society.
I don't think we do this enough as women, and I can't speak on men, obviously, because I don't have those conversations with them. But I don't think women know how powerful it is to embrace, uplift, and compliment each other. Like, I feel like we in society have been pinned against each other to be competition at every asset of whatever social media does. And compliments are awesome. Spending quality time, loving on each other, whatever your love language is. I think it's super important. I've grown in that space, and I'm blessed to have a space where I was able to grow in that. But whatever capacity, obviously, that you can give that is important, because just having just a little bit, like even this little sliver of having another woman support you, love you, just be there for you is really important, because, you know, whether you guys are going through the same journey or not, like just having that feeling of she has my back, or she loves me, or these, like, I feel like it doesn't have to be from the opposite sex. It doesn't have to be from, you know, I feel like women on women, men on men, like this being able to have that common ground is super important. And then not making comments, like, I don't know why we always say physical comments, but like, I feel like comments or compliments and comments, all of these things can be something, just like you were saying, of their personality. Or I am a big person of like how I make people feel. Like, I want to leave this earth on knowing that everyone at my funeral had a feeling of love from me. And whether that's tough love, whether that's she was an amazing friend, she was an amazing mom, whatever that is, I just want it to be a love. I want everyone that I leave on this earth, like, I want them to have that feeling. And I think it's super powerful, because not enough people get that feeling in life.
It's an amazing goal.
I don't know if I'm going to get all of it, but I'm going to try.
Change my goals.
I think you're on the right track. Okay, last question. Thank you guys so much for sharing your stories. I think they're all super powerful, are going to help a ton of people. But as we're wrapping up, what lasting message do you want everyone here, everyone watching to leave with from what you guys have shared today?
I'll go first, since Molly's been going. I think the biggest thing is that you're not alone. That's a huge comment that I always felt like I was alone in our sport. And you're not alone to go through the things you're going through. You're not the only person that looks the way you look. You are not the only one that has a wedgie. You are not the only person who cannot find a bathing suit that doesn't fit you. You're not alone. There's so many different ways that you can connect on that level, let alone another level. That I love when people DM me saying that, like, thank you for just going out there and playing and not even caring. Like, the fact that I can do that and I'm not thinking about it makes me feel like, okay, I'm doing my job. But I think that if we as a whole, you know, like I was just saying, like, can come together and know that we're not alone and love on each other a little bit more, I feel like girls are going to be badasses, and we're going to grow our sports as a whole like nobody's business. Because if we come together, just think about how powerful we could be.
Amen.
Kind of have two. I think first one is just remembering that people don't love you or like you for your body or what you look like. That's huge. And so we shouldn't value ourselves based on that either. There's so much more we have to offer than what we look like. And my other thing, of course, as a dietitian is food related. I hope that you enjoy food and food should be enjoyable. Obviously it's fuel. And I think we kind of drill that into our heads as athletes. Like I gotta fuel. But it also should be fun and you should enjoy going out to dinner. Like it should be an enjoyable experience and not missing out on life. You're not just an athlete. There's a lot more to you. And so as a dietitian, my goal is to help people and athletes use the food they love to fuel their bodies and not feel like they have to restrict themselves. So that's my main point.
That's a good one.
I like
That's
that.
a really good
I
one.
like that.
I would say, if you ever have a bad day and you just are at rock bottom, like feel your heartbeat and how much your body does for you day in and day out. Even just getting up in the morning, going to the bathroom, walking there, like our body does so much for us. And I always forget that, how much my body does for me, because sometimes I'll, finish a tournament and it's not the greatest. And I'm like, I need to go work out. Like I need to take this out on my body. But it's like, my body just went through hell to get to where it's been. And in a game, it's like, even walking in the sand is hard if we're talking just about beach volleyball. And so just remembering all of the little things, like your lungs are breathing, like your blood is pumping through your body all of the time, your heart's beating without you even knowing, and just kind of being a little bit more loving towards those parts of you, and knowing that, yeah, like food's going to help you do all that stuff continuously. So yeah, just knowing how much your body does for you. That's what I would say.
That was a big turning point for me when I started focusing on just being in awe of what my body does for me every day. Because you can't just hop out there one day and have it do that. Yeah. But just breathing and the blood moving. I mean, it's crazy. It really is. When you really, I've thought about it so much because you have to go back to it to really appreciate your body and think positively about it. For me, I think just focusing on performance, keeping the main thing is really huge. Whether you're a high school athlete, whether you don't, even if you don't play sports, just treating your body well and focusing on what it does for you and being kind to yourself. But if you are an athlete, it's more about performance than it is about looks. And again, appreciating your body for what it does for you. That's what I hope people take away from this conversation from me. So let's give the panelists a round of applause. Thank you guys again so much. I loved hearing your stories. I know everybody else did too, and we really appreciate it. I know that, it's time to stand up. My watch is shaming me. I think we have a couple of questions. We have a couple of minutes, so maybe I spoke too soon. But are we going to do questions or?
If anyone wants to ask a question, if anyone has one, if not, I have one from the live stream.
Yeah, we have questions from the live stream also.
Thank you guys all for coming. By the way, this has been so wonderful to listen to, and I'm so just grateful to be a part of this community with all you guys. I still have another year at USC playing beach volleyball, and I've noticed a lot of times that freshmen coming in kind of have issues with what they're eating. Maybe it's the first time they're exposed to a different social scene. Different weight fluctuations. So I was wondering if you have any advice, that I could give to them in a way that isn't intrusive of how they think and whatnot, but that would help the transition for them as it pertains to food intake as a female athlete.
In my opinion, the best thing you can do is just lead by example. When I was in college, I felt like I forced a lot of things. Like I would be like, hey, you should be doing this. Like this would be better. And it almost made a lot of the girls I was playing with kind of being like, no, I want to do this. Like it was kind of like the opposite of what I, hoped for. But in my opinion, just leading by example, which you do. So that's my opinion. But I mean, it breaks my heart to know that girls come in already kind of wanting to be a certain way. But I mean, just being there for them and like showing them the ropes, like, what are you, a senior now or something? Like, yeah. So it's like they don't know what's going on. So just, showing them the ropes and making them feel comfortable, because I feel like when people are most comfortable and they feel like they have a family, they can kind of relax a little bit more instead of trying to be something they're not, or holding on to something that's really not them or something they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think even sharing, if you ever had that experience yourself, or ways you may have struggled with fueling, even if it's like a silly anecdote of like a time that you skipped a pregame meal because you thought you'd play better and then you tanked, or, like you hit a wall. I think just giving those experiences, because they obviously look up to you as a leader, I think that's super powerful. Just like the way they've shared stories tonight, it's like, I'm sure it's impacted so many athletes. Because it's like we're learning from mistakes that other people have had. So, of course, and then maybe tell them to see the dietitian too, if they're interested.
And I know from my experience going in, I had never cooked for myself. I didn't know what, I just ate what my mom made for me, which was always super healthy, but I don't think I like really paid attention to like, what does a healthy plate look for? Maybe you could make it a team thing, like have a family meal together. Like, I know you guys are super busy, but like once a week, and just really healthy food, plenty of food, and be an example there, and maybe if you make that part of your culture, it creates the foundation for just healthy habits. It's just an idea. Because I was kind of the opposite. Came in and had Jamba Juice as a snack, which is like 500 calories, and just, like I said, gained 20 pounds, which is fine, but it was because I didn't eat very healthy. And I would have liked to know more about like, how can I eat better for fueling performance and stuff like that. Thanks for your question.
We have one from the live stream. This is from Shaylee Ungos. She says, what's the best or most unique compliment you've ever received? Something that really boosted your confidence. And before you guys answer, Fallon, you had someone else comment on here, and they said, this might be the compliment. They said, I saw you play for the first time with a good friend of mine over 20 years ago. You were the most inspiring and confident young woman, and I remember thinking, I want to love myself like that.
That's,
Oh,
wow. Yeah, snaps. Snaps all around.
I forgot the question already.
You've ever received that's helped your confidence.
That was the most unique.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm always super flattered when people comment about me as a person. Like, I'll get, like, I can tell that you're an authentic, good person, and you give back where you can and stuff like that. Like, that always touches me when people say that. So it has like nothing to do with even my performance. But yeah, those are my favorite.
I think being a mom is like my favorite compliment or comment that you can give me. Like, I think I work really hard at being an example, being a good mom, that like when people give me something of just like, oh, I can tell you really love your son, or I love your connection, or something like that, like it always just makes me mushy. So I love those.
I'm like blanking right now, honestly. I think I like compliments, obviously about my personality, or if I've made someone feel comfortable. I'm definitely like outgoing, and I can be at points where I don't know how to stop talking. So if I can make someone feel comfortable and not have to, maybe start the conversation or something, I think that's one of my biggest, I think.
I mean, for me, like in my role as a dietitian, I think when people say that I was a good listener for them, I think that's huge, because most people just, like I said earlier, just want to be heard, and they just want someone to hear them out and really understand what they're saying. So I think for me, when that's acknowledged, that's my goal. I just want to be a good listener. And of course, when athletes tell me they have more energy because they're eating more food, I'm just like, yeah, that's the best feeling ever. Yeah.
We got any more? Or were we good with those? Good. Yeah, I think we've reached our time. So to everyone on the live stream and here in person, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you learned a lot. Looking forward to doing more of these on different topics. So hope to see you again. And thanks for being here. For those in person, we're going to have Gina and Kelly come up